Imagine stepping onto the shores of a vast new land. Behind you, the wooden ship that carried you across the Atlantic creaks in the tide. Ahead of you stretches a wall of dark forest, so thick it feels alive. There are no cities, no towns, no roads, just untamed wilderness and the promise of a new life. This was the reality for settlers arriving in America during the 1600s. In this video, we'll step into their shoes. We'll see the world as they saw it. The cramped journey across the ocean, the hard labor of clearing forests, the struggle for food, the strict rules of faith, and the daily fight to simply survive. By the end, you'll know what life in the 1600s was really like. Life in the New World began with a test of endurance, the ocean crossing. Ships like the Mayflower or the Susan Constant were not built for comfort. Hundreds of passengers were squeezed into dark holes below deck. Imagine a space no larger than a school classroom, packed with men, women, children, and their few belongings. The air smelled of damp wood, unwashed bodies, and spoiled food. Rats skittered in the shadows, feasting on crumbs. Buckets served as toilets, and with the rocking of the sea, spills were common. Seasickness was everywhere. The voyage took 2 to 3 months. During storms, the ship pitched violently. People were thrown from their hammocks, food supplies rolled across the floor, and prayers to God filled the air. Some passengers never made it across. Disease spread easily in such close quarters. Smallpox, dysentery, and scurvy took lives before the ship even sighted land. For those who survived, stepping onto solid ground felt like rebirth. But their struggles were only beginning. Once ashore, the settlers faced a new challenge, building homes in a land that seemed endless and wild. Dense forests stretched in every direction. With only axes and saws, men cut down trees one by one. Each strike echoed through the woods, a reminder of how much work lay ahead. Cabins were built from rough logs, stacked and sealed with mud. Roofs were made from thatch or wooden shingles. A single cabin often took weeks to finish, and until then, families slept in tents or under wagons. Inside, the cabins were dark and cramped. A single fireplace provided heat and cooking space. Smoke often filled the room, stinging eyes and lungs because chimneys were poorly made. Floors were dirt, and rain sometimes leaked through the roof. In winter, snow blew in through cracks between logs. But for settlers, this rough shelter was better than nothing. It was their first foothold in a new land. Life revolved around hard work. Men spent their days farming, chopping wood, hunting, and repairing tools. Women tended gardens, cooked meals, made candles, and spun thread. Even young children were expected to help. A 6-year-old boy might carry water from the well, scare birds from the cornfield, or fetch firewood. A little girl might learn to churn butter, wash clothes in icy streams, or patch torn garments. Childhood was brief. Survival came first. Mealtime was simple but vital. Women stirred large iron pots over open fires, making stews of beans, corn, and whatever meat could be found. The scent of smoke and stew clung to their clothes. At night, families gathered by candlelight. The flickering flame was their only light against the darkness outside. Privacy didn't exist. Families of 6, 8, even 10 people lived in a single room. They ate together, worked together, and slept side by side on straw mattresses or wooden planks. Survival depended on food. Corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters, were staples introduced by Native Americans. Without them, many colonists would have starved. Deer, turkey, rabbits, and fish provided meat. But hunting wasn't always successful. Winter was the true enemy. Crops failed, game disappeared, and supplies ran out. During the harshest winters, some settlers were reduced to eating roots, acorns, and even shoe leather boiled in water. Imagine sitting at a rough wooden table, the fire barely keeping out the cold, staring at a small loaf of bread that had to feed a family of 7. Hunger was constant. Religion shaped daily life. Most settlers were deeply religious, especially the Puritans and Pilgrims. Sundays were sacred. Families walked to simple wooden churches where services lasted for hours. Children sat silently, afraid of punishment if they misbehaved. Ministers preached about sin, punishment, and salvation. Settlers believed misfortune, whether sickness, a poor harvest, or even a storm, was God's judgment. Superstitions also ran deep. People believed in witches, spirits, and curses. A failed crop might be blamed on the evil eye of a neighbor. These beliefs would one day fuel tragedies like the Salem witch trials. Native Americans were both allies and enemies. Some tribes traded food, furs, and knowledge of the land. Others saw the settlers as invaders. Skirmishes and wars were common. Settlers lived with the constant fear of raids. But they also relied heavily on native knowledge. Corn cultivation, hunting techniques, and herbal medicines often meant the difference between life and death. Without this help, many colonies would not have survived their first years. Perhaps the greatest test of life in the 1600s was winter. Snow covered the ground for months, cutting off travel and trade. Firewood had to be gathered daily, or families froze. Food supplies dwindled. Inside cabins, frost formed on the walls. Families huddled close to the fire, wrapping themselves in animal skins. Children cried from hunger. The sick often grew weaker and died. Each winter, new graves appeared in the frozen soil. America was not easy. It was not romantic, nor filled with the promise of quick riches. It was survival, day after day, year after year. Settlers faced disease, hunger, cold, and conflict. Many did not live to see old age, and yet those who endured built the foundations of the future. Their cabins became towns, their farms became communities. Their struggles, sacrifices, and stories echo through history. So when you imagine the 1600s, don't picture luxury. Picture a smoky cabin in the wilderness. Picture frost on the windows, a family gathered close, and the sound of the forest just beyond the firelight. That was life in America during the 1600s.